Hi, my name's Connor Farrow, chef de partie here at Restaurant Sat Baines. I won the Annual Awards of Excellence in 2018. The dish I'm going to be cooking for you today is a roast loin of lamb, Jersey raw potatoes, Morels stuffed with a chicken mousse, wild garlic emulsion and a lamb sauce. So we're going to start with the lamb sauce today. I've pre-coloured my lamb meat. We've cut it up nice and small and caramelised it in the oven. 200 degrees for roughly 20 minutes. We've cut it up nice and small so you get bigger surface area on the meat and you get more flavour. We're going to add this to a really hot pan and we're going to sweat down the vegetables. The vegetables we're using today are carrot, celery, onion, tomato and garlic. Once the vegetables have sweated, we're going to add rosemary, thyme, peppercorns and deglazed with white wine. And in this pan here, we've got 2 parts veal stock and 1 part chicken stock. We're using roughly 2 litres of veal stock today and 1 litre of chicken stock. So the vegetables have been sweating now for a good 5-6 minutes. We're just going to add peppercorns, rosemary, bay leaf and thyme, deglaze with white wine, and then we're going to cook out the alcohol. We want to make sure we cook out the alcohol, and then we're going to pour the stock on top of this, and then we're just going to simmer on the back of the stove now until so we can get the rest of the garnish ready. We want to make sure our stock's hot when we add it, because we don't want to stew the meat. We want to make sure that the stock is hot so we can reduce the sauce as quickly as possible. Okay, so now we're going to work on our next garnish while the sauce is simmering over. I've chosen Jersey Rolls potatoes today because they're in season at the moment and they're beautiful. We have rendered down some lamb fat and we have just confit the potatoes, which we've pre-scrubbed, washed, and as you can see, all the lamb fat flavour is going into the potatoes, and we can just leave them on the back of the stove now while we get the rest of the garnish ready. They have just been sitting on the back of the stove for a good hour, so we're not rapidly boiling them, we're not cooking them very harshly, otherwise we break down the potato. Okay, so now we're going to work on our wild garlic emulsion. I've pre-boiled an egg for 4 minutes. We've chilled it and peeled it, and then I'm going to emulsify wild garlic oil into it. I have made the oil by blending equal quantities of vegetable oil with wild garlic that I've got from the garden. I've then hung it in the fridge overnight, and then we're left with this beautiful, beautiful dark green oil that I'm going to emulsify into the egg. Just slowly add the oil, just like a mayonnaise. And you want a nice thick consistency. As you can see, the emulsion is nearly there now. We're just going to season it with malt and sea salt. And that's exactly what we're looking for. We're looking for a nice thick mayonnaise consistency. Hi, my name's Connor Farrow, chef de partie here at Restaurant Sat Baines. I won the Annual Awards of Excellence in 2018. The dish I'm going to be cooking for you today is a roast loin of lamb, Jersey raw potatoes, Morels stuffed with a chicken mousse, wild garlic emulsion and a lamb sauce. So we're going to start with the lamb sauce today. I've pre-coloured my lamb meat. We've cut it up nice and small and caramelized it in the oven. 200 degrees for roughly 20 minutes. We've cut it up nice and small so you get bigger surface area on the meat and you get more flavour. We're going to add this to a really hot pan and we're going to sweat down the vegetables. The vegetables we're using today are carrot, celery, onion, tomato and garlic. Once the vegetables have sweated, we're going to add rosemary, thyme, peppercorns and deglazed white wine. And in this pan here, we've got 2 parts veal stock and 1 part chicken stock. We're using roughly 2 litres of veal stock today and 1 litre of chicken stock. Okay, so now the meat's ready. There's 3 ways we can check it. Probe, you can either check it with your finger or with a needle. I've just checked it with a finger and with a needle today. When we check with a needle, we just check it above the top of our lip. And now it's ready. We're just going to rest it and let it rest in its residual heat to carry on cooking the meat. Okay, so the sauce has been cooking for about an hour now and it's at a consistency where it's ready. We're just going to pass it through a damp muslin cloth and a chinois, and then we're just going to give it its final reduction and monte it with butter right at the end. Where lamb is quite a lean and fatty meat, or where it's quite a fatty meat, sorry, we need to make sure we skim it throughout the sauce making process, so we end up with a nice crystal clear sauce. If you don't skim it, your sauce ends up really fatty, and this makes the sauce cloudy at the end. Okay, so we're just going to leave that to drain, to let all the sauce run through, and so we've got all the sauce that we need. We don't want any wasted with this sauce. Okay, so now the lamb's resting, we're going to work on our last garnish, which is the morels. I've just removed the bottoms from them, washed them until the water runs clear. This roughly takes 3 or 4 times, and then we're going to stuff them with a chicken mousse. I've made the chicken mousse by blending chicken breasts in a Thermomix with egg white and cream, and then once it's nice and smooth, I'll pass it through a tammy and then beaten in the rest of the cream until we've got a nice shiny glossy chicken mousse. We then add the pulp from the wild garlic oil, and this colours the morels a nice green colour. So when we've got the finished dish, we've got a nice contrast of the cooked wild garlic and the raw wild garlic, because as soon as you start cooking wild garlic, the flavour changes completely. The pan that we cooked the lamb in, we're going to use the sediment from the bottom to saute off the morels. Once the pan's nice and hot, we're just going to saute off the morels. We'll then deglaze with lamb consommé that we've made earlier, and then emulsify in butter. Okay, so we want a nice beautiful seal on the morels, so we get as much flavour into them as possible. We're already at the burn noisette stage with the butter from the lamb, so we don't want to burn the butter at this stage. We just want to make sure that we're sautéing the morels at a nice temperature. And of course, where we're using chicken mousse, we want to make sure the chicken mousse is cooked. So yeah. Once we're at this stage and the morels are slowly starting to cook, we're now going to add the lamb consommé. We'll reduce this down so the gelatine thickens and we end up with a nice concentrated thick glaze. And then we're going to monte in the butter. Okay, so now the consommé is reduced nicely. We're just going to monte in butter. So we end up with a nice, thick, glossy glaze. Okay, so now we're there. We're just going to finish the morels with a couple of cracks of pepper. And they're good to go. Okay. We'll take them off. The lamb sauce has just been reducing. We've got our final reduce on the sauce, and then we're just going to monte in a couple of knobs of butter. Again, just so we get a nice glossy finish on the sauce. This helps to make the sauce nice and rich, and the eating quality in the mouth is a lot nicer. Okay, as you can see, the butter has emulsified nicely into the sauce, and we end up with a nice, beautiful consistency on the sauce. Okay, and now we're ready to dress. Okay, so now all the cooked garnishes are ready. We're going to speak about the garnishes we haven't spoken about. We've got some wild garlic flowers that we've just foraged from the garden this morning. We've got some rams and capers. We grew them, picked them as a team, as a kitchen, and pickled them this time last year. We've got some sheep's curd. We've hung it to remove the whey, and the whey we can use for separate uses. And then we're just going to use the sheep's curd itself today. And we've got some black garlic. The black garlic, we preserve it at 60 degrees for 60 days, and then you end up with this really sticky texture of garlic, and you can just eat it as it is. Okay, so now we're ready to dress. We're just going to carve the lamb. The lamb's had a good 5 minutes to rest. We're just going to cut it into 2 pieces. We've cut off the ends just for presentation uses only. I'm just going to start on dressing. Okay, so the lamb goes on first, then wild garlic emulsion, then the confit potatoes. We've just trimmed them for presentation uses only again. Morels. Just so it's natural, we want the whole dish to look natural here. And then we're gonna fit the rest of the garnishes in between. Just so as the customers eat the dish, they get a little bit of everything in between each bite. Okay. Now we're going sheep's curd. Rams and capers. We want to make sure we've got a nice amount of rams and capers on the dish because there's not a lot of acidity, so we want the acidity to be there. And then we'll just finish with the wild garlic flowers. At the table, the waiter will then finish it with the sauce. Okay, and there you have it. Roast cannon of lamb, Jersey royal potatoes confit in lamb fat, wild garlic emulsion, morels stuffed with a chicken mousse, and then we've got sheep's curd, black garlic, and rams and capers.